I can't believe I have to shave my head. Today's video is quite possibly my most anticipated video, not even of 2018, for the past 4 years. I've already posted a plethora of videos about the subject, and you know from the title what I'm about to speak about, but Restore Me by Tanamafi hit shelves, and it is so beautiful. If you're new here, hello, my name is Whitney, and I've been obsessed with Shatter Me since I was a ripe age of 15. I have a whole Shatter Me playlist I'll link down below just because I've made so many videos about it. And I'm so excited to be here to be able to talk about a new book, to go over new theories, to just get out the brain farts that have all accumulated. I really want to give this an honest review and delve into my thoughts and just give it a well-rounded review and tell you from the standpoint of a human and not someone whose every living, breathing thought is about Warnet, how this book went for me. Now I think it's time that we go through the book scene by scene, chapter by chapter, line by line, not line by line, another day. I want to go into my full thoughts on how I liked it, different reactions to stuff, questions I have. Here's part one. Hope you enjoy. So I'm gonna skip talking about the first 30-ish pages of the book that were just the sampler because I have a whole video down below that I'll link. Can I do links up here now? I don't know how to do anything. Am I a YouTuber? I have a whole 50-minute discussion just about those like 40 pages. So go and check that out if you want to hear full thoughts about that. The first scene after the sampler that I read at like midnight, freaking out on my Kindle, was Juliet's point of view where she and Kenji are taking this walk together. I did a vlog about my feelings while I was reading it, but I do want to go into it right now because I think it's important. I don't want to just censor out the fact that I really was having a hard time reading this and I didn't like it at first. I know that's giving people the ammo to roast me about it and be like, oh, you hated it at first. Who are you? The Shatter Me Queen who? But I just want to emphasize that this series has become such a safe place for me, and I identify with Juliet and Warner so much as far as anxiety and self-worth and just like all this important life stuff. I just confide in the series because I idolize these characters. I trust them. I want to be in the story with them. I love them. I think you can relate. Diving into a book that was now taking that story and making it scary and making it new and giving it new twists and putting them in turmoil and testing them, and it was freaking me out and it felt so fake. I felt like I was reading a fan fiction, and once again this was all when I was reading it on my Kindle and I hadn't seen the physical book yet, so it did really feel like this isn't Shatter Me. So yeah, reading those first scenes was hard. And I did have my friends spoil me. Originally, I just wanted to know how it ends, then I found out the ending was horrible, so I was just like, screw it, tell me everything. And I was told, jumping into spoilers, so if you seriously haven't clicked off the video, go. Before I read the book, I was told she had a sister, her real name is Ella, she's from New Zealand. Warner tortured her sister, the ex-girlfriend was Warner's. Juliet shaves her head, and I think, I didn't know the ending, so that's like what I'm happy about, but I knew like the big stuff. I knew most of the big stuff going into it. I've had people ask me if I regret being spoiled on it, and my answer is no, because whenever I was told those spoilers, I was so convinced I would hate it. I hadn't even read 20% of the book yet, but I was so convinced like that's unrealistic, that could never happen. And I spent the whole night and the rest of the day freaking myself out and saying like, this series is gonna be terrible, I don't wanna read it, I'm gonna have to DNF it, I'm gonna have to delete. I was literally like, I'm gonna delete my Twitter, like I can't be a Shatter Me fandom advocate anymore if I hate this book. There's one of two ways this could have gone. I could have spoiled myself and had that massive freak out the day I got spoiled, or I could have read it all myself and then at the end of the book had that period of freaking out about it and thinking it's unrealistic and yada yada yada. I think if I wouldn't have spoiled myself, I would have finished the book and had that breakdown of this is the worst thing in the world, and I would have much rather had that feeling before I finished the book rather than after, if that makes sense, because now I can look back on it and say, oh, I thought it would be horrible, but then I reached the actual scene and it wasn't that bad and it made sense in context, and I don't know, I think it made it so that I was ready for it. Taylor Swift, do not give me a lawsuit over that. I promised y'all I would just get into all the scenes, so here we go. Reading this first scene where Juliet's talking to Kenji and they're on this walk, it's just, Juliet's voice is so different and it's so amazing. The fact that she's like saying the word bullshit and she's being like, this job blows, and she's just so casual and so funny. Like, it's, I don't want to say it's different, but it's such a different side of her that I just adore. I've always loved her for her awkwardness and her bluntness, premise, and this just takes that and runs with it, and this makes me so happy. Also, that chapter mentions that this book takes place in early March. Two things about that got me so excited. I was like, oh my god, it's early March now. And then also the fact that Warner's birthday is on April 24th. My first thought was, we better get a Warner birthday. And she later confirmed, I think it was online or at a book panel, I don't remember where it was, but she confirmed they're getting Warner's birthday in the next book. And I'm pumped. I'm just like, I've always envisioned like this happy scene. The thing is, I'm excited for it to be in the next books, but if it's a sad scene, she can keep it. But I think having a sweet Warner birthday scene would be so nice. There's also just a ton of lines from Juliet that show her growth and show that after Ignite Me she's a different person. Like whenever Castle's telling her about sending the email RSVPs out to the other Supreme Commanders, he says it was an experiment. And she says, I am no one's experiment anymore. And you just see that growth. I'm like, that's my woman. I love her. I will pay $18.99 USD for 10 copies of this book. But also, that foreshadowing, yikes. There's a scene where Juliet throws her shoe at Kenji, and my first thought was just like, wow, Phazan wishes they could be this good. Did no one else think of Phazan during that scene? I'm just saying. Again, it just shows how cute they are. Like, I adore these characters so much, and this book just delivered. In this review, I'm gonna try not to become the person that's like defending this book. I think if you follow me on Twitter, you might have seen I've been getting heated about a lot of the reviews coming out over this book, saying the different criticisms of it. I'm not gonna try and combat that in this review, although I might indirectly roast a lot of it. But one of the main things people have been saying, and one thing I wanted to touch on, is that the regression of character growth, especially with Juliet, and people saying that Juliet's weak or whiny or whatever. We're in the middle of a series now. We're not the end of a series. So if you expect her to become this super strong person and just stay at that level for the rest of the book, like that's not realistic. That's not how the plot of books work. She would naturally have to encounter some type of new conflict for it to sustain any of our interest. And I think the way that Tahara takes it was so natural and well done. Specifically, I want to talk about communication between Warnet. Originally, I was like, oh, I hate books that center around the plot of miscommunication, and that trope is horrible, and I just wish they would talk to each other. But I think it's such a natural feeling to feel inadequate. Juliet's so concerned about like, Anderson before me in this job did so much and knew so much and knows the system and was in the system the entire time, and she feels disappointed in herself for struggling, and it's hard for her to adjust, and she can't let that weakness show because she's in that position now. People are watching her and the whole world's coming for her. Is that not? I fail to see how that's unrealistic or whiny. I think people call her whiny because she's like, I have so much stuff to do and not enough time. Like, to me that's funny when she's like, they want 3 more minutes of lunch? Who cares? It's just so cute. I don't know why people think that's annoying, but is it not realistic for her to be overwhelmed? She's 17. She's been locked up in jails for like the past 5 years. People doubt her every day. Castle doubts her, who was like her #1 cheerleader. Well, probably like #3 cheerleader, but still. I mean, the self-consciousness and exhaustion and paranoia, they're all so natural to me. I think that frustration is totally justified, and I just don't agree with people who say that it's whiny, because I think, especially the fact that she's afraid to tell Warner all this, and then when she eventually does, I'll mention that later, but it's just like, just put yourself in her situation. Warner has been trained his entire life to be this political figure, this unmovable, strong, smart leader, and then you decree yourself above him. You have so many responsibilities, and all you're doing is watching this person. I'm skipping that metaphor, it was stupid. What I meant to say was, every single day Juliet drives herself further into her own insecurity because she sees everyone around her performing at such a top-notch level, and she's competing against the phantom leader of Anderson, and she feels inadequate, and she feels pressured to do the best, and yet she doesn't have enough hours in the day, and she's not sure how to handle new things, and Delalu's pressuring her every day with new stuff, and just let my woman live, okay? She's trying her best, and I love and support her. Back to the video. And I think that this is discussed so smartly because it also addresses the fact that Juliet is only 17 years old and she takes over a country. This is one of the biggest plot holes that even I would bring up. I think you could definitely find posts where I say she's only 17, why is she the leader of a country? It's a very justified claim, I think, and I like that this book is conscious of it and tackles it and talks about like she's young, she's inexperienced, she's naive, people are going to underestimate her. The way that I phrased it is that self-doubt is something that Juliet has always struggled with. In the original trilogy, it was on a much grander scale of, I don't know if I deserve to exist. And now she's sorted through that and made peace with it and knows, like, yes, I am worth it. Like, people love me, I love myself, we can move past that. But now it's turning on to, but do I deserve to lead? And it's just gonna be another progression of, like, reassuring herself that this position is right for her and reassuring herself that she has strength. She might not have skills that were trained into her from the ripe age of 0, but she can still do it. That's gonna take moral support of her friends behind her telling her that, and a change within herself for her to understand that. But it's still gonna be a really important progression throughout the rest of the series. So I think this vulnerable side of her that we begin to see and having to accept and admit her shortcomings shows such a soft side of her. I'm just not making any sense, but I love Juliet Ferrars with my full heart. Like, she's genuinely like my favorite fictional character. She's so complex and interesting. She can sit there all day and say, I can kill people with my bare hands with no effort given, but like being someone who has to lead and control and be smart, that's what's difficult. And that's such a compelling conflict, and people just ignore that and say she's whiny, and I'm mad. Okay, I'm gonna move on from that scene because that was literally like 20 minutes about one scene. But next we're gonna focus on this Warner and Adam conversation. The Adam situation. Let it be known that I am Team Warner, but that's never a good sentence. I'm not mad about Adam in this book, and I know it's kind of the new popular opinion to give Adam some leeway. I wish I could be like, I hate him, never gonna forgive him, he's the worst, Adam Kent more like a damn cunt, but like, there's something in me that screams, if he's going to be this new character who is powerful and helps Warner cope and can relate to Juliet, cough cough, they both discovered they have older siblings, cough cough. I'm not mad about him coming back into the story, especially after this whole scene where he and Warner talk to each other. If James didn't exist, I definitely wouldn't be as charitable as I am, just because, wow, James. Anyway, okay. I just think that scene was so sweet and very important. I know that Warnett doesn't need Adam's validation for them to be a legitimate couple, but the fact that he like understands that he went wrong and he was a dick, and he says like, you can be with her, I don't care, she deserves someone, like, it's so good. And I think it's a necessary conversation, and like just the fact that he's self-aware of how horrible he was was really good. But then there's a little bit of a revelation of like why he got to that dark place, and I think that was a little bit of what also alleviates the fact that I don't severely hate him anymore, which is that he legitimately thought that Warner was gonna kill him, or when he found out that when they were brothers he almost didn't survive. Like that, I never considered that. It's just, I don't want to sympathize with someone who was horrible to her. I'm not ignoring the things he said to her ignite me, but it's still like they were all under some stress. Like, I'm sure if you thought you were gonna get killed, you would be a little paranoid. So this is what it's doing. It's just making me pause and be like, maybe. At this point, I'm not like, go Adam, we love Adam, Adam is my new bae. But still, I think that we picked some weeds out of the garden and like brought in a wheelbarrow. Is that a horrible metaphor? Probably. I just think that this is the paving of getting to better places, and I don't think they're gonna be buddy-buddy. I don't think him and Juliet are ever gonna be like best friends. I'm just happy that there's some type of discussion there about what happened previously. Then the one thing that killed me at the end of that scene was when Adam says to Warner, like, I only care about one thing now, and that's my family. And he looks Warner in the eye. I just think that their relationship is going to be so complicated, and there's several factors that drive that. Mainly, I love the fact that Warner talks about, like, I can't sense what Adam's feeling, so he's like a stranger to me still. It just complicates the relationship and adds intrigue there. My upstairs neighbor has been rearranging furniture all day, and I swear to God. I don't want Warner and Adam to be besties and they tell each other everything, but it is an older brother dynamic. I would like for there to be a mentorship there somewhere, or just like that, I don't want to say bond, it seems too much, but I want there to be some type of companionship. I don't know what I'm trying to go for, but I want there to be some trust and comfort there, because I see the beginnings of it, and I'm craving. from Craven. And I think something that can help that is, one of the main things that I can't stop fixating on is Adam and James at the end of Restore Me are on the sector base. They're not involved in this whole explosion, whatever that ending was. Adam might end up being our hero. And I hate getting excited about that and like theorizing that Adam's gonna save the day. But if he's separated from all the drama, then he might hold some power and be able to like help stuff from the outside. Additionally, I think this whole idea of Adam's power is useless is gonna come full circle, because I've said this in theories before and I'm gonna continue to say it. He can disable people's powers, and if he can project that, or if he can like hold someone back from hurting someone else, I think that's priceless to any battle or fight. I'm not an Adam stan, but that is important to me. Moving onward. Now we must talk about Kenji's backstory. Tahada just said in her Instagram live stream that Kenji's backstory was something she's known throughout the entire series. At first I was like, this is really abrupt, and like, why is he telling her this just in the public right off the bat? First of all, I really like that Kenji said out loud, you know I'm Japanese, right? And just the fact that we can discuss race in this book and the tension between race and how that interconnected with the fall of the country. I think it's really relevant. I think it was a smart discussion, especially with gun violence added to that. It was so relevant and terrifying, but like tragic. It was just heart-wrenching, especially when Kenji says you should hear the stories that Castle has. Like, I think that discussion was so important, and I would listen to Kenji talk about it all day. I gotta do it, and I'm so sorry, but the orphanage. The line where he says, I think I'm the only one of you who doesn't have daddy problems. I loved the shit out of my dad. Like, I could cry. I could cry right now. He doesn't deserve it. I will defend Kenji with my bare hands. I'm so mad. Anyone who has ever been racist to Kenji, anyone who has ever touched Kenji in a wrongful way, like, catch these fiery hands today, boy. Anyway, then we get back to the base and we see some of our favorite side characters. Okay, the thing is, unpopular opinion, does anyone care about the side characters? I've learned of some people who don't. Every single time that Winston comes on screen, it's a book. Every single time that Winston is in this book, like, my automatic verbal reaction is going, Winston! Like, I love him so much. I love him and Brendan so much. Ian can choke. I made a tweet a while ago that was like, Ian predicted that Sector 45 would get bombed, but I don't like him, so I'm not giving him any credit. Which I stand by, because Ian is a snake. And Ian did not believe in my Juliet Ferrars woman and ignite me, and he is a snake. Can we just talk about how daddy Delalue is in this book? I have always loved Delalue, my beautiful, sweet little precious little man. And in this book, he's just so nervous and beautiful, and the fact that Warner, this is from the sampler, but like, Warner finds solace in having meals with him, and Delalue's always like, Madam Supreme, we have to do this. He's like the actual Cogsworth from Beauty and the Beast. He's so precious. And the scene where he comes up to her and says, there's someone waiting downstairs for you, he wants 10 minutes of your time, my immediate visceral reaction was, okay, it's her dad, parents, and I was so ready to like have her civilian parents be downstairs being like, oh, we found out you were Supreme Commander. I was wrong. She played me like a violin. I thought her parents were civilians. And then this gets into a whole section of everyone saying, Warner should be here for this. You should rely on Warner. You should have Warner teach you things. You should have this, and Warner needs to be there. And Warner knows about this. Warner should be... I will fight. I love that Juliet stands up for herself. I love that she wants to be independent. I love that she believes in herself to do it, and she doesn't need Warner's help, and she just wants to be independent and like lead. So the fact that she tells Castle off and says, no, I'm gonna go down there, I don't need Warner with me, I think that's a moment of power. I don't think that she's foolish for it. I don't think that she's naive for it. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion, but I will stand by my woman no matter what. This is random, but it's something that I cannot put out of my mind. So the next chapter, Warner's going into his backstory about like his dad making him do all this crazy stuff when he was little. He describes the thing where like whenever they were 16, he and his Supreme Commander children buddies all had to like shoot each other, and he won that. I don't know. Anyway, he keeps talking about the fact that he's like craving his father's approval, and he's like, oh, I want my dad to like me. That was the day that he first was proud of me, or like whatever, but all I can think of is Kronk being like, I want the big thumbs up from Poppy. Kronk's new groove. I'm so funny. But really delving into Warner's perspective, there's a lot of things that I want to say, specifically starting with the fact that everyone's angry that he's hiding himself from Juliet, or he's being secretive. Typically this would annoy me, but basically this book has broken every trope that I hate. I think it's so natural for him to not want Juliet to know about his past. There's certain things that are a little bit exaggerated, like sure, he can tell her that he knows several languages, or sure, he can tell her that he likes baseball, I don't know. But he voices these fears. It's on page 90 and I know that because I tweeted it because I was angry. But I'm gonna read you something because people be thinking that Warner's like hiding himself from her and it's petty and like whatever. But the reason why he's not like being open with her is because he says he doesn't want to lose Juliet and he doesn't want Juliet to know his past. And this is a quote from our man's himself. "I don't want to share stories from my life that only disgust and revolt me, stories that would color her impression of me. I don't want her to know how I spent my time as a child." It's all born from self-loathing and he doesn't want her to see him as a different person. It's the same obsession he has in Ignite Me with "I'm the same person I always was, don't try and change me." Like that's literally in Ignite Me and it's the same type of conflict. And so he's saying like, I don't want her to know all this disgusting stuff about me. I don't want it to make her go away. And that's his self-consciousness, not the fact that he's being manipulative. I mean, I do think it is early in the relationship, so like, when are you gonna sit down and be like, hey, by the way, for 2 years I tortured a girl named Emmeline? At the same time, I think Castle contributes a lot to the tension behind this, and I will get into Castle in a hot moment because I have a lot to say about our boy. But just the fact that Castle always talks to Juliet about like, you have to ask Mr. Warner about his past and there's a lot you don't know and he freaks her out over nothing because like, I'm just so annoyed at him in this book sometimes. I can't be mad about Warner hiding stuff from her because it's from such a place of self-loathing that I'm like, no baby, it's okay. And I know in future books they're gonna sort this out, especially at that last kissing scene we'll mention later. There's a whole scene where she and Kenji are trying to pick out clothes for herself and we weren't given a scene of Warner picking out an outfit for Juliet. These are confused hand gestures because I need it yesterday. I know that Juliet is a strong woman and I'm a feminist and all that good stuff, but I still would have loved to see a scene where Warner puts that fashion power to the test and just like gives her outfit suggestions and like shows her new clothes and just, again, I have to like wipe away my expectations and the things that I want, but I'm just saying if that's not part, it's probably not gonna be part of the next series, but like I wanted it. There's a scene where Juliet finally confronts Warner and says, you should have had this job, everyone's thinking it, I don't know why I'm doing this. And I think that it's one of the most important scenes because it does confront that idea that we've already hinted at and people have complained about. I've said this, I've said Warner is a more prepared leader. Just the discussion we have after that is so meaningful because he's saying the person who leads needs to have these traits and I don't want that. I don't want to kill people. Juliet cares about the people and Juliet knows what's best for people and has good intentions. I don't. Like, I don't want that position. And the fact that he gives her this whole pep talk that's like, the people who doubt you have never understood you and I've never once doubted you. Like, that's one of the most iconic lines. That's probably not even a proper quote, but like, I've always loved the way that they support each other. And this book just continues to have them support each other. And it's so sweet. It's so sweet. Can we just, I'm gonna go back to Castle now because that's what's next in my notes, but can we just, I have a question. Why is Castle suddenly convinced that Warner is his son? Alexander Hamilton himself was crawling out of the grave being like, I'm not your son. I think it was such a random addition to this series that Warner is suddenly Castle's son. I think it would be better if Castle would have called him that earlier in the series so it's not just so random in this book. But regardless, it's like, it's kind of endearing. So as much as I'm confused about it, wondering if it's supposed to be a Hamilton reference or whatever the deal is, at the end of the book when Castle finally admits you remind me of my sons, it got me. I was like, okay, you can call him whatever you want. But still, George Washington and Alexander Hamilton are shook. And now let's get into the topic of Castle, because I'm wishy-washy about it. I'm gonna go ahead and like preface this with, I love Castle in the original trilogy. He's always been just so smart and nice and kind in my eyes, and I know that Warner said at one point Castle was too nice to lead this movement. He was too naive, he could have never have succeeded. With that in the back of my mind, I hesitate to love him in this book. There's parts that I do think were sweet, which is, like I said, the part at the end where he's like, I always have wanted to support you kids, like you've had such hard lives, you remind me of my sons. But there's parts of him now, after everything, that I'm just like, are we supposed to trust this person? The first time I read this, I was like, Castle has got to be working for someone else, or like is somehow spying on them, or is not the person who they think he is. Because the fact that he, like, first of all says Juliet shouldn't have this job, I think was so weird and out of character. And Juliet, I just call Tata Juliet. Tata later confirmed that the reason why Castle is experiencing this is because he's been dethroned as this leader who has been trying to build up, taking over for like 20 years, and Juliet just like swept under him and got it all in like 2 months. So there's a little bit of bitterness there, but also it's just weird to me that Castle knows so much. And I know he said like, oh, we have files 3 feet deep of everything, which first of all, I'm salty because it means he probably knows Warner's first name and there was supposed to be a really cute reveal scene, but whatever. The fact that he knew all about Juliet's sister and knew all this information that he kept from her the entire series. Like, he's mad about Warner keeping things from her, and he's mad about Juliet not asking about Warner's history when he himself knows about it. It's just, he seems so untrustworthy, and I don't know how I feel about him. And just the fact that Castle would accuse Juliet of like being unstable and too dark, and like we might lose her, and he loses faith in her in this book, and it's so disheartening. But at the same time, it's like, is he just speaking the truths that we don't want to hear and I hate him for it, or is he actually like not putting enough faith in the characters? I really am like super 50-50 on whether or not I like him, because at one point he'll say like, oh, we shouldn't trust Juliet with that, and then I'm like, no, go away. But then the next second he was right, and I'm like, I still don't like you, but okay. I think that's like one of the biggest things I'd love to discuss is Castle supposed to be a likable character? Because I don't like him in this book that much. Which I think is kind of disappointing to me, because I said in all my theories videos, Castle's gonna be my favorite character. He's gonna be so bomb in this book, and he wasn't. But speaking of characters who were my favorite in this book, Kenji freaking Kishimoto. Even whenever I was reading this, when I hated it, all the Kenji dialogue, all of Kenji's everything, it was just, everything was just so on point with him, and everything reminded me of like the old series and just that comedic relief, but also he's everything to this story. He's vital to the story and the characters, and I'm not gonna be able to speak rationally about it, but he means so much to the story, and he did not change a bit, and I think it was flawlessly executed. I probably should have mentioned this first, but I didn't see it in my notes until just now. But during my read of this book, I decided I was gonna take a shot every time that Warner called someone an idiot. I don't drink and I don't have alcohol, so I just took sips of water. But I should probably count, because there was a lot of people being called idiots in this book. I think now let's talk about the Warnet sex scenes. I guess a general overview, we got a little more risque. How do you like talk about this without being creepy? I was convinced it would either stay the same as the original trilogy and just be really metaphoric and sweet and then skip it, or we would up the ante a little bit and see where that would take us. And I was like, it's either going to be super sweet Tahamafi or just turn into Sarah J. Maas. But Tahamafi being the queen she is, we didn't jump straight to Sarah J. Maas. And I was like, it's such a good balance now, and I think it's, I just had to stop in the middle of that sentence, because I'm like, how do you speak about a sex scene? It was good. It was a good mix of sexy moments and sweet moments. After the first moment, she's like, oh, I should probably go. Kenji's waiting for me. And he says, wow, that was really not what I was hoping you would say. I died. It's so funny. Like, the fact that she's like, oh, so Kenji's a turnoff for you? Good to know. Like, it's so sassy and sweet. I can't stop smiling. I love it so much. Sometimes there would be lines where she would be like, oh, I can remember the feel of him inside me. And I'm just like, part of me doesn't want to know about it. Part of me is just like, I love y'all. Have this every night. Feel free, but I don't need to know so much about it, because my deal with like super intimate sex scenes is I'm like hot, but at the same time like I don't need to know everything about your anatomy. So I'm happy that we still had some distance from it, and I'm sure with being a YA book the distance was probably needed. But yeah, and also Kenji's reactions to them having sex is everything I've wanted since chapter 55. Just him being like, "You don't touch me," and like, it's so funny. And I love Kenji, and I love that he knows them and like jokes around. I think it's so funny. I think it's so cute. One part that was pretty shocking for me was before the book came out, Tahara was teasing so many Kenji and Warner scenes saying that Juliet's perspective was a spoiler. So I was anticipating, oh, Warner and Kenji are gonna be best friends in this book. And then we get to the book and there's a literal scene where Juliet's like, "You guys don't have to be friends." And it's so funny and cute, and I loved that part. That being said, I think we're going to end part 1 here because it's just been a long time. The sun's going down. I'm getting emo. Everything all at once, you know? I think we made it up until about sometime in the book. Who even knows? Hope you enjoyed the part 1 discussion of Restore Me. I don't know if I have unpopular opinions or not, but let me know down below how you felt. If you loved it, if you hated it, if you didn't even read it and you're just watching it because I like it, which a lot of you do. I'm roasting you because you need to read it. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope you're having a wonderful life, and I'm sorry if my lipstick has been awkwardly smeared this whole video. Bye!